Welcome to the latest edition of Ragic Office Hour. And let's get started with your questions. Okay, first question. How do I rearrange subtable line after subtable entry is added? I suppose you're referring to like reordering the subtable, the orders of the subtable lines and they're saved. And right now we don't really have a really straightforward way for you to reorder the subtable the subtable items after they're saved. So the order of the subtable items are as they are in the order that they are created. So if you need to really reorder them, what I would suggest is that you can probably consider add a special field for ordering the subtable entries. So you could add like a sequence number for the subtable entries, and you will be able to assign different numbers to the sequence number, and then you can order the sequence number order the subtable according to that sequence number. So for example, it would be something like if you go to if you have a subtable like this, and you should be able to go to design mode and add a sequence number, sequence, and it can be a free text or a number. They will all work. So we could just like move this sequence number here, save it. So this is the current sequence, and you will be able to like assign if you want to have like this one first, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. And you should be able to assign this sequence, and then you can sort the step table according to this sequence. So if you really need to reorder the items for a subtable after the records are entered, I would suggest that you could do something like this to reorder them. And we are currently looking into some other more straightforward ways to reorder items on the subtable without without the need to kind of add a special field to do this. You know, something that we would probably add a hidden system field to do exactly the same thing as you see right here. So we will be looking for a more automatic way to do this, but for now, the easiest way to do this is to add a sequence field to the subtable, and you can sort the subtable according to that sequence field. You can add a sequence field to the subtable. Okay. And secondly, we will be working on something that's probably more automatic without the need to create a new sequence field. All right. Okay, take a look at the next question. When will restricted scrollable pageable subtables are made available. Okay. Also a question on subtables, where we've been using Ragic for 18 months and are now finding that transactional data, i.e. subtables, are delaying the loading of entries. For example, an inventory item has an audit trail of stock movements, delivery, sales as subtable. It can really slow when it's a very active stock. Yeah, if you have like more than hundreds of items in a subtable, it's gonna be a little bit slower when loading that item. Ideally, the subtable would be restricted to a maximum number of rows, allowing scrolling or paging, and only load the first page worth of entries. To speed up the initial load process, please see attached screenshot. We'd like to, okay, let's take a look. How many records do you have? Doesn't show the full records, but I suppose it's quite a lot. And just by the way, we generally recommend not putting subtables next to each other, especially if they are really large subtables, because when the system is doing the layout for these two subtables, if you put them in parallel like this, it's gonna be a little bit slower for Ragic to kind of lay out these kind of things. Just a small tip on how to make the loading faster. Yeah, looking at the scroll bar, this should be a rather large subtable. Okay, we like to limit the purchase order subtable to 6 rows, ideally with it being pageable and only loads data upon demand. The alternative is have multiple table views or for drilling down on movements, etc., which is far from ideal. In your case, I think there's a simpler solution in according to your screenshot. You should be able to put these two subtables into separate form sections, which are different tabs. So you can make the supplier tab the default, the supplier subtable in the default section, and that which appears automatically. And you can put the purchase order subtable in another tab, so that when you click on a record, it will by default show the tab, the section for the suppliers. And then when you really need it, you can click on the purchase orders tab, which is a different section, which will only load after you click on the purchase order tab. This is generally something that we would recommend um, for forms that if you have lots and lots of items in on a certain subtable, you can kind of hide it in a section which is not by default visible. And this will make loading that record a lot faster because the system will not need to fully render and load that very large subtable when the item is being loaded when you go to the form page of that item. So um, and we will be working on some other features that maybe we could have an option to only display a certain number of records per page for a subtable. So that's something also that we have on our mind, but it's just a little bit incompatible to our current architecture for the whole subtable form. So it's not that easy to build for us without making significant changes to our form page architecture. But it is something on our mind that we would like to support in the future. So first, you should be able to create two sections for your suppliers and purchase orders. Suppliers and purchase orders. And by default, only show the first section, which does not contain as many You go to, so give you a brief demo. Oh, yeah, this is exactly what I mean. You could design this by adding sections. So if you don't have sections, it will look something like this. And you can just choose this to be one section, create section, and you'll be able to create another section like this. Just create another section. So these will be two sections, and you can put the larger subtable in the second section, which is by default not rendered, and only the first section is by default rendered. Supporting page for be able to set. All right. So yeah, I hope our suggestion helps, and we will be looking at different designs to add paging for the subtables. All right, and that's it for the questions for today. And thank you for joining into Ragic Office Hour. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to use the question sheet to ask your questions, and I will be answering your question in 2 weeks. All right, thank you and goodbye.